What's up, guys? I've had a real hankering to get into the boxing scene recently. It just seems like anyone can step into the ring nowadays, but just in case, I submitted my resume to the UFC showing my experience in Wii Sports boxing. Look, all I'm saying is, Mayweather, you got nothing on me.
The Nintendo Wii, Nintendo's motion-controlled phenomenon and that thing that's rotting in your uncle's entertainment center currently. The Wii was one of the most ambitious consoles Nintendo's ever made, ditching the idea of trying to match their competitors in terms of hardware and graphics and instead focusing on a fun and innovative controller gimmick certainly could have been disastrous for Nintendo, but in the end, they would go on to unintentionally win the console war for that generation. And certainly one of the major reasons for them winning was definitely due to Wii Sports. Being developed as a glorified tech demo to show consumers the motion control functionality of the Wii Remote, Wii Sports was a cultural phenomenon back in 2006, definitely because it came packed in with nearly every Wii console for the majority of its life. Everyone and their grandmother has swapped spit with this game before, but in a world where new sports games come out on a yearly basis and are generally looked down upon, how well does Nintendo's attempt at the genre stack up 3 console generations after its release? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's take a look at Wii Sports, but first we obviously have to make our Mii. The Mii channel, the best place to recreate digital versions of my family members or to make horrible atrocities. Anyway, we need someone with great athletic ability to represent us in Wii Sports, so let's go with Whoopi Goldberg, clearly the obvious choice. So Wii Sports is a sports minigame compilation centered around 5 sports: tennis, baseball, bowling, golf, and boxing. Each game on their own is fairly simplistic and pretty much what you'd expect for these sports, but the real depth comes in how you control these games. While most other sports styles let you play with conventional controllers and button schemes, here we're on the Wii and have to use the Wii Remote in all of its plastic glory. Every game here is controlled via motion controls, and while that may sound bad, especially considering this was one of the first Wii games ever made, they actually work exceptionally well. Obviously not perfect, but considering every sport here is controlled pretty similarly to how you would actually play these sports in real life, it helps to make the controls feel natural and somewhat more accurate. I'll go out on record saying I'm not the biggest sports fan in general, but man, I'll with some Wii boxing. The game doesn't look half bad either for being an early Wii game. There's a decent amount of detail in things like bats and grass and such, and the models and lighting look good overall. There are a couple of things that look cheap though, like the background Miis just being JPEGs and some of the backdrops not blending in super well either, but overall the game looks nice. The music's pretty good too, despite there not being a ton of tracks in the game, and with most of them looping pretty quickly. But hey, if you ever go to a party, just play the main theme of Wii Sports and you'll immediately be the talk of the town. Well, I guess the only thing left to do now is go through all the games one by one and see how I feel about them. Tennis is one of the more fun ones. Sure, tennis is a fairly boring sport all things considered, but here you can control 2 versions of a Mii at once, and the game will even control your characters for you. Having your characters be computer controlled was definitely due to the developers wanting these games to be as simple as possible, and yeah, it can be kind of annoying sometimes, but as a whole, tennis is a fairly good time. Baseball is a much more intense game. It's a standard game of 9 innings with teams rotating between batting and fielding, though players really only need to focus on batting and pitching, as with tennis, computers control the players on the field and ultimately determine how many bases the batters get to move to. I find the computer-controlled elements to be much more annoying here, considering they ultimately determine the outcome of the game. But batting and pitching is still very fun, and honestly, a lot of the enjoyment comes in seeing what kind of Miis will be on your baseball team. Shifting gears in tone, we have bowling, which is definitely one of the more chill games out of the 5. There's just something about this game that is really relaxing compared to some of the other sports, which is strange because in real life I f***ing hate bowling. Despite its good vibes though, I find Wii Sports bowling to be a little wonky. I don't know, it's just more often than not it feels like this game just randomly decides what pins it knocks down and what direction the ball goes in. Overall though, it's not bad, and it's something I would consider going back to single player wise. Also, you can make some Miis have a fucking aneurysm if you throw your bowling ball backwards, so that's fun. Golf in my opinion is a better version of bowling. Still a little wonky, especially if you move your Wii Remote out of a standard golf position, but it's easily the most relaxing game out of all the ones here. This is one tons of people go back to, either single player wise or for speedrunning purposes. Yes, people speedrun this game. And while I'm not a huge fan of golf on its own, I still find this game to be very fun. My only nitpick is that it can go on for a while, especially if you choose a 9-hole game or are playing with multiple players. Also, all the courses here are 3D interpretations of the courses in golf on the NES, so that's a neat little throwback. And finally we have boxing, easily the most adrenaline-inducing game in the entire package. It's just a good old one-on-one boxing match to the death, and it's also the only game fully requiring the use of the Wii Remote's main peripheral, the nunchuck. But yeah, this is probably my favorite sport in the entire game. It's just fun to blow off steam and punch me in the face sometimes. And punches and dodges work pretty well, though maneuvers like uppercuts and hooks are fairly tough to pull off, especially considering the game doesn't fully explain how to do these. This is also where you can face off against the elusive Matt, an unofficial final boss that requires your me to get a skill level of 1500, and one who packs a mighty punch, Jesus Christ. Anyway, after a couple of matches I ended up beating him. Looks like I got one more thing to add to my resume. If you want more content outside of the core sports, what's wrong with you? Instead, the game has the training mode, specific challenges centered around the core sports meant to improve aspects such as aim, speed, or trajectory. As the training mode, these challenges are pretty lame. None of the challenges, with the exception of the baseball ones for some odd reason, really felt like great ways to improve at these games, but as a way to get more content out of the overall experience, this mode is a blast. They help to break up some of the monotony of the regular events, and can offer some fun spins on already established concepts. Like, bowling is already pretty fun, but what if you could play bowling with 90 pins at once? Anyway, watch me destroy this tennis challenge. Another mode you can play is the fitness mode, which pretty much just throws a couple challenges at you to show you a pointless fitness age and some stats. I'm glad my fitness age is about a decade off from my actual age, but it's only because I suck at tennis, man. And yeah, that's pretty much Wii Sports. Single player wise, the games are pretty fun, but as soon as you bring other players into the equation, this game quickly turns into a blast. Every single one of these sports are so much fun with other people, and honestly, I feel like Wii Sports can compete with other major Nintendo party titles like Super Smash Bros. And Mario Kart. The game looks, sounds, and plays incredibly well, and after nearly 15 years, it's still fun to play and go back to today. Sure, there isn't a ton of overall content, but for what it is and for what Wii Sports was trying to be, it's incredible how well this game has aged and how impactful it has been. The music is iconic, the games are iconic, the announcer's voice is iconic. Wii Sports is iconic.
So that was Wii Sports. It's honestly impressive how well it's held up over the years, but that doesn't matter right now because the UFC accepted my resume and scheduled a fight for me. Let's see who I'm up against. Oh, I'm